Every cell in your body can burn fat. Your mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside each cell, are built to crack open fatty acids and turn them into pure energy. When you cut carbohydrates low enough, your liver starts converting fat into ketone bodies, an alternative fuel so efficient your brain actually prefers it under certain conditions. This is ketosis. It is real biochemistry. It is not a fad, and it is not pseudoscience. And yet, 85% of people who try a ketogenic diet never achieve sustained fat loss. The mechanism works. So what is breaking? Most people assume keto fails because it is too restrictive or because high-fat diets are overhyped. Neither is the real answer. The fat-burning pathway is well established. The failure is not in the biochemistry. It is in a series of specific, hidden breakpoints between the proven mechanism and the real-world result. Silent mistakes that prevent ketosis from ever switching on. Invisible forces that erase its effects even when it does switch on. And a psychological trap timed so perfectly, it kills most attempts right before they would have started working. This is not a video about whether keto works. The physiology is settled. This is a diagnostic breakdown. We are going to walk through the hidden failure points one by one, from the most common mistake people make on day one to the hormonal saboteur that hides real fat loss from your scale and your mirror. By the end, you will understand the exact biological reason each one blocks fat loss and why one specific tracking behavior nearly triples the success rate. No diet ideology, no food religion, just mechanisms. Let us open this up and find exactly where it breaks. The most common failure point is the one almost nobody suspects. Most people eating keto are not in ketosis. Most people eating keto think they are in ketosis. They are not. Nutritional ketosis has a measurable threshold. Your blood levels of beta-hydroxybutyrate, or BHB, the main ketone your liver produces, need to stay between 0.5 and 3.0 millimoles per liter. When researchers actually test self-reported keto dieters, most fall well below 0.5. They are eating keto foods. They are not in ketosis. And the reason comes down to one hormone, insulin. Think of insulin as a padlock on your fat cells. When insulin is elevated, even a little, it suppresses an enzyme called hormone-sensitive lipase. That enzyme is the only key that unlocks stored fat and releases it into your bloodstream to be burned. No key, no fat release. It does not matter how much bacon you eat. If insulin stays elevated, your fat cells stay locked. So what keeps insulin up on a diet that is supposed to keep it down? Hidden carbohydrates. They are everywhere. A single tablespoon of ketchup has about 4 grams of sugar. Lactose in milk, cream, and soft cheeses adds up fast. And here is the real trap. Those packaged snacks labeled keto-friendly, many contain maltodextrin or certain sugar alcohols that spike insulin almost as much as regular sugar. The products marketed to keto dieters are often the very things preventing ketosis. For most adults, net carbs need to stay below 20 to 50 grams per day, depending on your individual insulin sensitivity. That is a razor-thin margin, and a few hidden sources can push you right over it without you ever knowing. One more thing. Those urine ketone strips people use to check, they become unreliable after the first few weeks because your body gets more efficient at using ketones instead of wasting them in urine. The only way to confirm you are actually in ketosis is a blood BHB meter, a finger prick, a real number. Without it, you are guessing, and most people are guessing wrong. But say you clear that hurdle. Say you are in confirmed ketosis, burning fat as your primary fuel. You should be losing weight now, right? Not necessarily, because ketosis has a blind spot that almost nobody talks about. Fat oxidation is not the same thing as fat loss. Your body in ketosis is a fat-burning machine. That part is true. But here is the critical question. Whose fat is it burning? When you eat a high-fat diet, your body has two sources of fat available, the fat on your plate and the fat on your body. Your cells do not care which one they get. If you eat enough dietary fat to meet your energy needs, your mitochondria will happily burn all of it and never touch a single gram of your stored body fat. You will be in ketosis, you will be oxidizing fat, and you will not lose a single pound. This is where the math gets brutal. Fat carries 9 calories per gram. Carbohydrates and protein carry 4. That means fat is more than twice as calorie dense. A single tablespoon of olive oil is about 120 calories, 2 tablespoons of butter, 200, a handful of macadamia nuts, another 200. On a high-fat diet, calories stack up fast and they stack up quietly. Keto does boost satiety hormones for many people, which helps control appetite early on. But that effect is highly individual, and for a lot of people, it fades after 4 to 6 weeks. Without tracking, keto dieters overshoot their calorie target by 200 to 400 calories a day on average. That is enough to completely erase a fat loss deficit. The popular idea that you can eat unlimited fat as long as you stay keto, that is the single most effective lie in diet culture. Energy balance still rules. Ketosis decides what fuel you burn. Calories decide whether you shrink or grow. Now here is where it gets cruel, because the first 2 failure points are things you can control. You can cut hidden carbs, you can track calories, but the next 2 are forces that fight you even when you are doing everything right. Think about your first week on keto. The scale dropped fast, maybe 3, 4, even 5 kilograms in 7 days. It felt like proof. It felt like the diet was working better than anything you had ever tried. But almost none of that was fat. Your body stores about 400 to 500 grams of glycogen, a form of stored sugar, in your muscles and liver. Every gram of glycogen holds on to roughly 3 grams of water. When you cut carbs, your glycogen tanks drain, and all that water goes with it. That is 1.5 to 2.5 kilograms of water gone in the first 48 to 72 hours alone. By the end of week 1, the scale might be down 5 kilograms, and virtually all of it is water. Actual fat loss, even with a perfect 500-calorie deficit, runs at about 0.5 kilogram per week. 0.5 kilogram. After that dramatic first-week drop, 0.5 kilogram is invisible. The scale barely moves. It might even bounce up a little day to day from normal water fluctuations. And this is where the psychological trap snaps shut. Week 2 arrives week 3. The scale is flatlined. The diet feels just as hard, but the results have vanished. The majority of keto dropouts quit between weeks 2 and 4. They walk away, believing the diet stopped working. The truth? That is exactly when real fat loss was just beginning. The very thing that made keto feel spectacular in week 1 is the same thing that convinces people it has failed by week 3. But there is one more saboteur, and this one is the most invisible of all. Cortisol, your stress hormone. When you aggressively restrict carbohydrates, your body reads it as a mild stressor. Carbs play a role in serotonin production and in regulating your HPA axis, the brain's stress command center. Pull carbs low enough and your baseline cortisol levels rise. Here is what cortisol does. It tells your kidneys to hold onto sodium and water. 1 to 3 extra kilograms of water that sit on top of your real weight and refuse to leave. At the same time, chronically elevated cortisol drives fat storage specifically into your visceral fat, the deep belly fat packed around your organs. Even while you are in a caloric deficit, even while you are losing subcutaneous fat from under your skin. So picture this. You are doing everything right. You are in ketosis. You are in a calorie deficit. Your body is burning stored fat. But cortisol is simultaneously adding water weight and directing new fat into your midsection. The scale goes up. Your waistline looks the same or worse. And you have no idea that underneath all of that, the diet is actually working. Add keto, insomnia to the mix, the sleep disruption that is common in early adaptation, and cortisol climbs even higher. The loop compounds. This effect hits hardest in people who combine strict keto with intense exercise or extreme calorie restriction. More discipline, paradoxically, can make the masking effect worse. So if the mechanism works, but 4 different forces conspire to prevent or hide the results, what actually separates the 15% who succeed from the 85% who do not? 2 measurements. That is it. Research shows that keto dieters who track both their blood ketone levels and their caloric intake achieve sustained fat loss at nearly 3 times the rate of those who simply eat keto foods without measuring. 3 times. Not because they follow a different diet. The diet is identical, the difference is feedback. Blood BHB testing closes the first failure loop. You know within hours whether a food knocked you out of ketosis. No guessing. No relying on food labels, no trusting urine strips that stopped being accurate weeks ago. Calorie tracking closes the second loop. When you are counting fat grams at 9 calories each, even rough tracking dramatically reduces accidental surplus. And when you combine both measurements with an understanding of what is really happening during weeks 2 through 4, the water weight cliff and the cortisol mask, you stop interpreting a stalled scale as a failed diet. You stay. And the fat loss that was always happening underneath finally gets the time it needs to show up. Think about where you started. Keto either works or it does not. That was the binary. Now you see something different. The fat-burning machinery inside your cells is real. Mitochondria switching fuel sources, your liver producing ketone bodies, fatty acids pouring out of storage. That mechanism was never the problem. 4 failure points were: hidden carbs keeping insulin high enough to lock your fat cells shut, caloric density silently erasing your deficit because fat carries 9 calories per gram and nobody warned you to count them, a water weight cliff that made week 1 feel like a miracle and week 3 feel like a dead end, and cortisol quietly masking real progress behind a wall of retained water and visceral fat. 4 different forces, 4 different levels: behavioral, caloric, psychological, hormonal. And the fix for the 2 biggest ones is not a different diet. It is 2 measurements: a blood ketone meter that tells you whether you are actually in the metabolic state you think you are in, and a simple calorie count that respects the density of the fuel you are eating. Those 2 feedback loops are the difference between a 15% success rate and a 45% one. The diet does not change. The information does. Your body does not operate on food labels or marketing claims or what a recipe blog calls keto-friendly. It operates on insulin thresholds, energy balance, cortisol levels, and ketone concentrations. Measurable signals, every one of them. Understanding why a diet fails you is worth more than finding the next one that might. The machinery was never broken. It was waiting for the right inputs.